This is Capital Games Movie Club. I am The Wiz. Today, I am reviewing the 2022 film that was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, The Banshees of Inisherin, starring Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, Kerry Condon, and Barry Keoghan. This film is an interesting film. I've a little dive into my feelings of Martin McDonagh. I really don't have much of an opinion because I haven't seen many, if not any, of his films. I know In Bruges is his big one, and I have not been able to watch that yet. He also did 3 Billboards. I haven't seen that yet, which, yeah, I have a big hole in my filmography when it comes to Martin McDonagh. He doesn't have a lot of films in his pocket, but those are definitely 2 that I would definitely want to see. So this is my first of Martin McDonagh, but I've heard the great reviews of this, and I was very interested in seeing this, so I watched it this afternoon, and I'm going to tell you what I thought about it. So, The Banshees of Inisherin is a rather simple plot. Basically, this is set in the 20s in Ireland, in a remote island in Ireland. It's about 2 guys. One guy named Podrick, who is played by Colin Farrell, finds out that all of a sudden his lifelong best friend, Colm, played by Brendan Gleeson, no longer wants to be friends. And that's the plot. The plot is basically him finding that out, and this is the beginning of the film, and him trying to repair that relationship, trying to find out why Colm does not want to be friends anymore. Basically, in his attempts to repair the relationship, gets into more disastrous results as time goes on. So, it is a comedy, but it's a dark comedy. The way that I said the plot makes it sound a little more goofy than anything, but it really, it kind of is, but it's more serious than that. So I would go into this movie, if you haven't seen it yet, just saying, yes, it is funny, but it's dark, and you have to enjoy dark comedy to a certain extent. I think to a great extent in order to enjoy this film. So let's get into the review of The Banshees of Inisherin. First off, I have to point out, before I get into performances and the story, this movie is beautiful. It is a beautiful looking movie. The greens and the way that the island looks and everything is utterly gorgeous. And also the way that the clothes look on everybody is really eye-catching as well. I think it is just a gorgeous looking movie to watch. The cinematography in this is really good. It was like one of the first things I noticed when I was watching the movie, that the way that the film is shot and lit is just really good. Like, I mean, exceptionally good in this. Now, I haven't seen any of the nominees. I've seen a few of the nominees for best cinematography. This is definitely a beautiful looking movie. I just want to point that out. Just the way that it's shot and the way that it looks, like the greens. I can't stress this enough. The greens in this movie is eye-popping. It looks utterly gorgeous and everything. And then when you get the scenes near the coast and the water lines, it's just, oh man, it is such a good-looking film. Something I did not expect when watching this movie was that it was going to look really good the way it was shot. The performances are all nominated for Best Supporting Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor. The nominees are Colin Farrell for Best Actor, Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan for Best Supporting Actor, and Kerry Condon for Best Supporting Actress. I get why. These are great performances. I think the best performance of the film is Brendan Gleeson in this. And I'm not denigrating any of the other performances, really. I think Kerry Condon was really good in this as well. Brendan Gleeson, I think, is the performance of the film. And when the film starts going into its specific path, when it comes to the friendship between Podrick and Colm, and Colm's behavior as Podrick does not let this go, a good performance is needed in this to not make Colm seem wholly unrational and almost like a caricature. The performance that he gives is that of someone who is suffering, and it's clear that he's suffering, so you feel bad for him to a certain extent, but you also understand where he's coming from. in this. And this is also a testament to the writing of the film. The writing is very good in this. But the performance that Gleeson did was spot on. Because if Gleeson went towards another direction with the character would have been a little too unbelievable. Let's just say the things that the character does in the film is really questionable as time goes on, but you still believe it to a certain extent because you believe in the character that Gleeson has created in his performance. Farrell is very good in this movie. I think he's actually this is a really good performance by him, and if he gets the Oscar this year, I think I'd be fine with it. Farrell's performance is interesting because some of the most boring characters in film are nice guys, and the first thing the film tries to do in this movie is basically portray him as, hey, he is a nice guy. There is really no reason as to why somebody would want to do what Colm did to Podrick, to a certain extent. But as the film starts delving in more and more, even though Colm gave an answer as to why he ended the friendship, it seemed a little unfair. When the movie slowly reveals itself and the character reveals himself as to his true nature, you start to get maybe why this is happening and why the performance that Farrell gives in this movie to slowly reveal the nature of Podrick is actually really good. It still is grounded in a way. You believe this character is a living flesh and blood character. But like an onion, it just peels off layers and layers until you eventually lead to the inevitable conclusion of the movie. It's a really good performance, I think, for Farrell. Barry Keoghan has a few good lines and some funny things that happen in the film. So I like his performance. It's a little... I mean, it's good. I do like the performance. It's just not as good as the other three, I think. And Carrie Condon, I think, is very good as the foil amongst all the madness that's going on. Her performance and character is really likable and just a lot of fun to watch. Her reactions to what everything that's going on in the film is really good in this as well. So I definitely enjoy Carrie Condon in this. The writing of this film is very good. It's great that this film had really good performers in this movie because the writing is a real standout. And if they had to cut certain things because of a lack of inability for the actors, that would have been a shame in this. But the writing is very good in this. For such a simple plot, and this is why I like films with simple plots at times. Because with a film for a simple plot, it could be a boring film after 15, 20 minutes. But the way that the film runs is that it goes from what the plot is to layer upon layer upon layer of to what possibly could have happened in this and how the characters react to everything that's going on. And it keeps the film interesting. So it's like every 20 minutes something fresh happens, something new happens. And it's a really interesting way of doing the plot in this, where I think in most films, within 45 minutes, they would be having some wacky subplot, or they would have some really showy, really weird thing that happened in it just to break the action off. But the movie stays to where it is. The movie stays within that plot and makes everything interesting as it goes on there. There are subplots in the movie, I will say that, but they don't hinder what the main plot is in this. So it is a very well written movie, both in dialogue and in the way that the plot is structured. I think that the writing is absolutely great in this movie. Overall, I mean, this movie I think it's a really good movie. I think it's surprisingly funny, but really dark in certain aspects. And I'm not going to get into why, like, the spoilers, but the dark elements of this film really adds to the punchiness of the comedic writing in this. So I will say this: if you don't like gore at all, if you don't like blood and gore in this, and you don't like depressing and dark themes in your comedies, you may want to skip this. But other than that, this is a very good movie. I laughed pretty hard at some things in this movie, but it is definitely, I think it's a great movie. It is definitely worth your watch. And if you haven't given the shot yet, it's on HBO Max right now. I would say check it out as soon as possible. All right, so we're going to get into spoilers here for the Banshees of Inisherin. If you have not seen the movie, you can stop this, come back, and we will discuss spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what makes this film interesting, with its really, really thin plot, is in around the 40-minute mark. What happens basically is Podrick is not very bright, okay? He doesn't get that his friend means what he is saying. And when Calm starts to realize that Podrick is not getting it, he makes a threat. And Calm basically says, I'm going to cut off my finger for every time that you keep bothering me. And Podrick doesn't stop. So what happens? You guessed it. He starts cutting off his finger. And when this starts happening, the film still gets pretty dark because the man cut off his fucking finger, you know? So it's still pretty dark, but the humor is still there to a certain extent. It's still funny in a weird way, what's happening, but it's still... You get several in-depth things in this. You get the dimness and the inability of Podrick to move on, and then you have the deep depression of Calm in this, where he's in it bad, and he just wants to be left alone with his thoughts, but no one's respecting his privacy, or specifically Podrick is not respecting his privacy on this. When that starts happening, and this is where I thought the film was going to start to fall apart, because I thought, well, that's pretty excessive. So, and when it didn't happen, and when everything started still working in this, I was really surprised by this. And this is mainly due to the writing and the drama that's involved surrounding the island itself. When things started spiraling to the violent part in it, and the self-mutilation part, and then you see the hand that Calm has in this film. Oh, it's fucking grisly. Ugh. So what ends up happening is that due to Podrick unable to move on, other things around the island starts happening. Other things begin to shape into a much more dark and not sinister, but in a much more dark and unsettling way throughout the film. Not so unsettling that I think if you can't handle the violence, you'd be disturbed. Well, you might be disturbed if you see him throwing his fingers at a door, but I think, like, it's not disturbing in a way where I was unsettled and I want to turn the movie off. It's disturbing in a way where I'm like, oh my god, I kind of understand where this guy's coming from. so that bothered me a little bit. But yeah, I really don't want to go into more spoilers than that. I mean, the film deals with the main plot really well, and the subplots, while are good, don't have a lot of time put into it. The story is like really good for such a simple plot in this. I think if you are even slightly interested in the movie, I'd say give it a shot. I think you will definitely enjoy it. Okay, so final thoughts on the Banshees of Inisherin. Excellent movie. Excellent movie. It has some great performances. The writing is excellent. It is a funny film, even though it's fairly dark. It's a movie that goes certain places that most comedies like this don't. And it being set in the past, which originally when I was watching it, I was going, did it really need to be set in the past? But now that I've seen it, I get it now. I get why it was, so it fits. Like, everything in the film fits really well. If you are not into dark comedies, I would steer clear of this, because you have to find humor in depression and sadness and loneliness. And that might be hard for some people, but I would say if you can handle that, I would say definitely give this a movie shot. It is a 4-star movie for me. It's something that I will probably own and watch again at some point. So, yeah, I think it's an excellent movie. If you haven't given it a shot, watch it.